and welcome to episode 2 of From the Pitch to the Pros, a segment brought to you by BPTV. My name is Ellie, and I'm here with Kaelon Fox and Sophia Braun, two of our BPT members who also happen to be professional soccer players. In this space, we just sit down and we ask a bunch of questions to these pros who can shed some light on their experiences across their sports journey. So from rec to high school to college to the pros, they're here to give us some wisdom, to drop some wisdom on us. Now, today's topic is focused on how players can showcase their skills, their athleticism, and their potential to coaches, scouts, and college recruiters. So we'll be really focused in on the realm of tryouts and college ID camps. So with that, player evaluation, right? It can be really intimidating for soccer players at any level. But as with any sport, coming into tryouts prepared will give you the best chance of making the team or getting noticed or realizing your sports dreams at a higher level. So that really leads me into our first question of the day. What does standing out mean to you in the context of tryouts and ID camps, both on the field and off the field? Who wants to start? What does standing out mean?
I think standing out comes in a lot of different forms. I think you can stand out on the field for sure, performance-wise. You can stand out as a really good technical player. You can stand out if you're lightning fast. You can stand out if you just compete really hard. Like, I think there's a lot of different ways to stand out. But I think you also can stand out as being a really good teammate, being a good person, being someone that is coachable and someone that is going to get along with other players and fit nicely into a program. So I think there's definitely like a lot of different ways to stand out. And hopefully you can stand out in more than just one way. But that's what comes to mind for me when I think of standing out.
I would agree on all those points on the field. I think off the field as well, like just being on time, communication, like with the coach. Like, for example, I'm a coach now, and we use an app where, if you're coming to training, you're attending. If you're not attending, then you make that checkbox. So off the field, being organized, communicating, being on time, being available, things like that off the field are really important. And then, as Sophia said, on the field, being a leader, communicating, being a good teammate. I don't think that one gets highlighted enough. It's one thing to be a good player, but if you're not a good person, if you're not a good teammate, it's really hard to integrate yourself within the team. And then that kind of hurts the team as well. So those are the first couple of points that I would say.
Right. And we'll definitely dive deeper into some of those that you're talking about, right? Because this spans on the field and off the field. But first, I want to get into some of your personal experiences. So can you describe a situation where you felt like you stood out at a tryout or you stood out at an ID camp? And can you just kind of like lay that out for us and talk us through what exactly it was and how you felt the experience went?
I can go. I think, well, I actually got kind of initially recruited out of an ID camp. So I think that ID camp went pretty well for me, I would say. And I think I was able to stand out because of like the training I had put in going into that environment. I think I was just in a really like confident headspace. I was really excited to be there and I really wanted it to work out. So I think I had like a lot of things going for me, and I kind of just used that momentum to stand out, I guess, in the ID camp. And yeah, I think it went well for me, and I was doing the best I could. And I think the confidence was definitely big for me. I think I'm playing my best when I'm confident, and I know I was really confident in that moment, which helped me a lot.
Confidence. Yeah, that's huge, which we'll get again more into that in a second, but I want to hear what Kaelon has to say first.
Yeah, I would agree with the confidence factor. As a center back, that's the position that I mainly play. Connecting passes and winning tackles and winning headers are like the top three for my position, along with communicating. So when I'm at ID camps, or when I was at ID camps, those are the three things that I would focus on in the first 5 minutes or the first couple drills: is connect passes, 1v1, make tackles, headers, win my battles. And then going back to that confidence, my confidence would keep rising and keep rising. Obviously you start communicating a little bit more when your confidence is buzzing. And then that helps the rest of the team. So finding those three things that you're really good at and honing in on those and excelling in the first, game or first drill will help build that confidence throughout that day camp, 3-day camp, or anything in between.
Right. That's a great answer from both of you. But Kaelon, I'm specifically interested in what you were saying, because my next question was going to be, how do you build confidence, right? Because that's not something where you just show up the day of and you're like, all right, let's do it. No matter how much adrenaline you have, what goes into becoming more confident. And one thing I heard you say, Kaelon, was you had a plan, right? You went in, you said, here's my position. Here are the top 3 things that will reflect my strengths in this position. How do I show them? So I guess, how do you come up with that plan, and how far ahead should you be planning? Like, what does that look like?
I think every position's different, right? Center backs, you're, building out of the back, tackles. If you're wingers, maybe it's more 1v1s. If you're a forward, it's, holding up the ball. It really depends on the university as well. That's one thing I would add, is really get to know maybe the players that are there, the coaching styles, whether it's a 4-4-2, 4-3-3. So that way you kind of have an idea of what they're looking for in those certain positions. Like I said, for me, my checklist was, as a center back, every coach wants a ball playing center back. So really good with your feet. Obviously aerial duels, going up, winning your headers, and then also 1v1 tackles. But most importantly, being a good leader and communicating. So whether things were going really well, or, we just got scored on, having that communication and being loud, and also being there for your teammates is what I would say were my checklists before going into ID camps and 3-day camps that I knew I should excel at. And if I excelled at those, I gave myself a really good opportunity to get seen and then get recruited and so on. So
Love it. Sophia, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with everything that he said. I kind of was more of a midfielder, so I had a little bit of different boxes to check, but I think I focus more on trying to be creative, set up goals, score when I can, and to just work hard. I think something that I learned was a lot of my confidence comes from like gritty moments. So when I'm one of the hardest working ones out there and doing everything I can, like I think that definitely builds my confidence. So I definitely try to do that. And like you said, confidence builds like so easily. So just hyping myself up, even like hyping another player up, makes me more confident in my own abilities. So I think that's something that is definitely seen too and can get you noticed.
Amazing. Now I want to explore the opposite side of this. So let's say you are at a tryout or an ID camp and you've had a bad play and another bad play and another bad play. Or let's say you're setting up for a drill that like this isn't going to showcase your strengths. This is actually, it might highlight some weaknesses. What is your mindset going into that? What is your game plan going into that if you are feeling like your confidence is sliding?
Sophia?
Yeah, I can go. For me, honestly, I try not to be like a super down and up player, just because I know like if I start getting in my head and I start focusing on my last missed pass or missed tackle, then like that's a slippery slope that I'll go down quickly. So for me, I just like to think back to like all the prep I put in to something like this, or even just like my career in general. Like I've trained a lot, I've put in a lot of hours, and I just try to like, I guess, trust myself and know that I'm a good player. Like I'm here for a reason. I've got this far. And I think I kind of use that to build myself back up and to kind of build my confidence back up. Especially with like drills I'm not good at. I mean, I think if you're working hard and doing the best you can, there's definitely like a drive that you can see in some players where like they are just like winning players. Like they want to win the drill no matter what. And whether they're the best player at it or the worst player at it, they're going to do what they can to win. And I think that is definitely a trait that gets noticed, especially by college coaches, and is something that definitely helps you.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, for me, coaches know this, but not like no one's perfect, right? Whether it's a Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, NAIA, whatever camp you're at, like no one's perfect. There's going to be mistakes. You're going to have really good days and you're going to have really bad days. So I think it's the effort, the attitude, the hard work, things that even if you're playing bad, you can still really excel at are what coaches are looking for in those moments. A quote that I lived by during high school and college, even to this day, is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I think it's so important that not every player on the field is going to be the most talented, but if you keep your head down, you keep working, you keep communicating, you're loud, stuff like that are what coaches will see at the end of the day. Because like I said, coaches can teach talent, they can teach you, how they want to play, but it's hard to teach someone how to work hard or to have the right attitude even when things are going bad. So those are the few important things that even if you're having a bad day, just keep working on those.
Right. Love it. I love the idea of having a quote or like a mantra of sorts to attach to those moments when you are maybe feeling yourself getting a little negative, or maybe you're not performing at the level you would like to be. Yeah, I think that's a great tool to kind of pull you back in. It's very much in the realm of mental skills training, which is something it sounds like you both share. And again, that is something you probably need to start practicing leading into tryouts. It's not something that you kind of just like whip out and do. So it's more of like a lifestyle or a culture than it is even just a trick, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes coaches are going to put you on really bad teams to see how you react as
Oh,
well.
that's interesting.
So, I've been on some teams where the coaches are like, "Hey, these are the guys that, maybe at the bottom side of the totem pole, and let's see how you react. We don't expect you to win this. We expect you to maybe go down 1 or 2, and just in the game, you're not going to win every game. You're not going to score first. So it's kind of one of those tests, those subtle tests where at the end of training, he'll pull you aside and be like, "Hey, I put you on that team for a reason to see how you reacted, and you didn't react the right way today. So maybe next time, figure it out."
Interesting.
So,
Wow, that's a good one to look out for.
yeah, exactly.
Now I want to talk about interacting with strangers. So a lot of times when we're at these camps, we're not always there with our best mates, our best teammates, our best friends. Sometimes we're going solo. So at an ID camp or even a tryout, you might be rocking up on your own. So I want to talk about what that looks like and what is your approach there? Do you try to make friends quickly and feel more comfortable and more confident? Or do you not really care? Are you just like, I'm there to play. I don't care about making friends. Like, what's your approach?
I'm interested to see how like girls differ from guys in this.
Yeah.
But for girls, I would say, or for a lot of the ID camps that I was a part of, or whether I was helping or actually playing, I think it's really important to be comfortable enough to make friends. And I think you're all there kind of in a similar situation. And you're definitely not the only person that came alone if you did come alone. And I think everybody there is very welcoming and willing to warm up and pass the ball with you before we start. You might not leave with a new best friend, but I think friendly enough to be able to hang out for the day or play with one another. And I think it's important just to help yourself feel comfortable and just to kind of be able to, I guess, prove that you're a team player and you can make friends easily and you can get along with others. I think that's an important skill. You're probably not going to want to be someone that is just standing alone the whole time. I mean, that doesn't look exactly great to the coaches either. So I think it's definitely important. I know it can be kind of tricky at times when you feel like you're competing against this person, like for a spot. But I do think it's really important to be able to be friendly and make friends and feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think this is one of the hardest things to do at an ID camp or a 3 day, etc. For my position again, center back, like you have to know everyone's name, you're commanding, you have to lead the midfielders, lead the forwards. So making friends is super important. If not one of the top three as well for me. So I think, as a winger, you're more 1v1. So as a forward, you're kind of alone at the top. But defenders, specifically, of course, goalies, midfielders, your willingness to branch out and meet a few people on your team and get acquainted before the game start or before the drill start is super important. Going back to Sophia's point, it's really noticeable to the coaches as well. If, 30 minutes into the session, everyone's name, you're talking, you're organizing, stuff like that. So yeah, I think stepping out of your comfort zone is really important. Like Sophia said, everyone's kind of in the same boat, whether you showed up with one or two friends or maybe in three. You still got to get to know everyone. There's 11 players on the field, not three. So yeah, super important there.
Awesome. I think so too. There's one thing feeding off of this that I'm curious what you guys think about. And that comes like physicality and showing your aggression or how aggressive you can be on the field, winning balls out of the air. A lot of times with strangers, and this differs definitely in like younger ages, and it can differ across sex as well. But I know I've coached youth sports before, and at tryouts I noticed they're like they don't want to touch a stranger, right? Like and another player who they're playing against who they don't know. They're like, I don't know that person, they're not my friend, they're not my teammate, I'm not going to touch them. So what is your advice for like coming into, winning balls and like playing hard defense and like, showing that you're that type of player? How do you do that if you're like a little timid or a little nervous about getting all up in someone's grill who you have no idea who they are?
Yeah. I know it can be weird at times, but I think being timid is probably like one of the worst things you could do at an ID camp. I mean, I just think the best way to think about it for me was always like, okay, well, when I showed up on the weekend and play against the North California ECNL team, like I don't know those girls either. So what's any different showing up to an ID camp and pushing around some girls there too? Like to me, I kind of just tried to think of it as all the same. And I was always more of like a timid player growing up. So that was something that I always wanted to prove that I had kind of like gotten past and that I could be aggressive when I needed to be and make hard tackles. So I think for me, especially, like it was always on my mind to not be timid and to shy away from that the best I could.
What about you, defender?
I would agree. You don't want to be timid. Whether it's aggression, whether it's tackles, it's really important to, again, if this is a main thing that you do a lot in games, you kind of have to show that as one of your talents. It's hard, but like Sophia said, you're coming up against 11 randoms on the weekend when you're with your team playing other teams. So I think treating an ID camp or summer camp as if it's just another day of soccer or just another weekend is really important. Not adding that extra pressure to yourself is also equally important. So not being timid is definitely one thing I would stay away from.
Good stuff. Now when it comes to making friends, let's say you're there, you've made some friends, you're competing. How do you find you balance, the desire to stand out as an individual, but also be able to showcase that you're a team player, right? So like, how do you find that balance between, taking on things by yourself, but then also showcasing that you are capable of working with a team of players?
I think it's definitely, it's a fine balance. I think you can definitely scale too far one way or the other pretty easily, but being able to find that balance is so important because I mean, you definitely don't want to stand out as someone who isn't a team player and someone who isn't able to work as a part of the team and want what's best for the team rather than yourself, which is tricky in that environment when like, obviously it's not about your team necessarily winning, but it is like an ID camp and it is for you to stand out. But I think like a good way to stand out is to be the team that wins the most games. I think that's like super important and something that will definitely help you to get noticed. And I think just being able to be with whatever team you end up with and being able to work with them, like Kaelon said, knowing their names, being able to play together, being able to highlight each other's strengths, like that's super important. And I think that does get you noticed as well. all while being able to highlight yourself too. I mean, you can definitely set up another player and that looks good for you and them. So I think there's a lot that you can do to kind of put your eggs in both baskets, I guess. But I think they're both really important.
Yeah, the balance is this one's really tricky because you don't want to be too selfish and you don't want to be too much of a team player. But if there is one that I would shy on more for camps is being a team player. I think that it stands out a lot more. There's 11, people on the field. It's not a solo sport. So having those core values and shying over to that side will, I think, make the team better in the long run. So it is a slippery slope, but the more camps you go to, obviously, the more you play the sport, you put yourselves in those situations and you just kind of learn and you adapt. But I would shy on the team first side of things a little bit more.
Yeah.
If ever in doubt.
I think it's awesome that we're really, if anything, talking more about these sort of intangible qualities, right? These on the field, off the field qualities. So I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about how to showcase your personality and like how to showcase your leadership skills and who you are as a player? I feel like when I think about my younger self going to tryouts and ID camps, a lot of times you do try to think of like, you want to be who they want you to be. You want to be this like version of yourself, and you kind of take all these quick tips and hacks of how to make good first impressions, which can be important. But my question is more like, what advice would you give a young player who is looking to show themselves, show their personality, show what type of person they are on the field, off the fields, and in the competitive setting?
Yeah, I think honestly the best way is just in the way that you're communicating on the fields. It's such like a short time to kind of try to show who you are, which does make it difficult. But I think like the way you're communicating with your own team, the way you're able to, yeah, I think just communication wise, like being able to hype up your own teammates, being able to kind of like be that leader to maybe like not coach your teammates, but give wisdom or advice where you can, and to kind of direct and be that person that really like stands out both like vocally and on the field is super important. And then I think there's also like definitely opportunities off the field. Usually there's like campus tours and like question and answer little like segments, like stuff like that. So I think there's good opportunities off the field as well to kind of just like be yourself and showcase who you are a bit. I know like something that kind of stuck with me for a long time was when I had been talking to my college coach at the time, like we were talking about ID camps actually, and he was talking about how many like kids and parents he'll have where like the parents dominate the conversation like rather than the kids, and like how like that's like an immediate no for him. Like he's like if the parents are way more vocal and intrigued than the kids, like that's not somebody that we want in like our program. So that kind of just like stuck with me as like, oh, you kind of got to take the initiative into your own hands and be the person who you are. Don't try to be anyone else. I'm like you'll either fit into the program or you won't. And if it's not a good fit, there's probably another school out there that is a good fit for you.
That's good. I like the the communication piece, the asking questions piece, because it does also, not only reflects your personality, but it also can just generally reflect like your knowledge of the game, right? Like it can show rather than tell, like what level of wisdom you bear. Kaelon, what do you think?
Yeah, I think coming back to the very first question, like off the field stuff, just being on time is super important. Paying attention to details is another big one. If the coach says, hey, we're doing 2-touch, make sure you take, 1 or 2 touches, don't take any more. Is listening. The details are what eventually wins games and lose games in this sport and even the professional setting. When you get to training, I think it's super valuable to walk up to the coach and shake his hand and say, how are you? Ask them how they're doing. I think that shows a lot of initiative. I think too many people will get to the field, put on their boots, and then the coach blows the whistle and they kind of, run in the middle of the circle just like everyone else. But standing out from the crowd, walking up to, one coach, two coach, etc., shaking their hand, hey coach, how are you? Great, how are you doing? Awesome, like ready to get going. It's super, super valuable, and it's a very easy thing to do and stand out. But paying attention to detail, showing up on time, all those intangibles are just as valuable.
Right. I think that's great. I think that's awesome advice. And it also invites a sort of perspective shift in a youth player where, it reminds you of this is just another day of playing soccer. It kind of relieves some of the pressure to just remind yourself that these coaches are just human beings. Sometimes I think they can feel like a power imbalance or something when you're at these places and it feels super high stakes. But I think that's great just to remind yourself, just another human interaction, just another day of soccer. So one question I have for both of you, it's how do you handle rejection or disappointment during tryouts, during ID camps? And how do you use how did you use those experiences to grow and improve? So you might have a specific example, you might not. I'm just curious for advice for young athletes. How do you deal with the feelings of disappointment during this process?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I mean, I definitely had a lot of rejection, like a lot of rejection. But I think for me, the only thing that kind of like helped keep me going was I was like, okay, like this clearly was not meant to be. There's somewhere that I will end up that is what's meant to be for me, and this just wasn't it. This wasn't a good fit. Like you want to be in a program where like you're wanted, and if that's not how it feels right away, then it's probably not going to be what's best for you and what's right. So that was something that I was definitely looking for. And I mean, rejection's hard for sure, but you can also use it as a great motivation to keep working and to keep looking. You're probably not gonna go to one ID camp and it's gonna be an amazing fit and you're gonna love it and the coaches are gonna love you. Like that's just really difficult, and it's a hard setting, and being able to kind of have like practice runs and figure it out is a really good opportunity to find the school that's best for you. So rejection will come, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the world or it's game over. I'm sure Kaelon's had some rejections too, and we're both doing just fine. So
Kaelon's like, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, he's like, I'm perfect.
Rejection, unfortunately, is part of the sport. It's part of the game, whether it's a lost tackle or you lose the drill or you lose the game. Bouncing back is the most important part. For me, I had 8 trials and all the coaches said no for various reasons. And the 9th trial, I signed my first contract. So whether it's, you don't make your high school team, you keep working and then you make varsity for senior year, or you go to a couple ID camps and, the coaches say, hey, it's just not for us. Eventually you'll find that yes. And it really is worth it in the end to know that, hey, I got rejected 4 or 5 times and I finally got that yes. It's a really, really cool feeling to finally sit down with that coach and say, hey, we want to give you this offer, etc. And then to look back and say, I could have quit there. I didn't. I could have quit there. I didn't. And then that in turn, I think shoots your confidence levels as well.
Yeah, that's great, guys. Awesome mental skills training. I think to close out, we have like less than 10 minutes here. I kind of just want to do like a high level summary from both of you, just to give like 3 points on what advice you would give to an aspiring athlete who is mentally preparing themselves for a tryout, for an ID camp of any skill, of any age. Like Kaelon said, it could be high school tryout, it could be it could be a college ID camp. If you could give like 3 main bullets on sort of position agnostic advice on like how to mentally prepare for a big player evaluation in this competitive environment.
Yes. Okay. I would say number 1 is to be confident. Like whether you've trained a long time for this opportunity, so enjoy it, be confident, trust yourself, know that you know how to play soccer, and this is just the same as any other training or game. So kind of rely on that would be my first point. Secondly, I would say have fun with it, make friends. Like you're going to do 10 times better if you're enjoying yourself, if you're enjoying your teammates around you, if you're helping each other out. It's going to make it that much more fun and easy to stand out and play better, which is always helpful. And then third, I would say definitely focus on the off the field things that we kind of talked about. So like Kaelon said, introduce yourself to the coaches when you're leaving. Make sure you shake their hands. Make sure you ask for an evaluation. Make sure you're following up, whether it's over email or a phone call for kind of an evaluation to start some type of conversation. And just do all the little things, be on time, be polite, be a good teammate, stuff like that. So those are kind of like the three main things I would say leading up to an ID camp to kind of be aware of.
Awesome. Thanks, Sophia.
I like those three. I'll try not to use the same three.
You can. They're important. You can.
Yeah. Number one would be being a good teammate. I think like we talked about earlier, everyone's there kind of for the same reasons. But being a good teammate, being a good leader, communicating in a positive way, I will say, whether it's criticism from one of your teammates, where, you know, if he's saying, hey, like help me out here on a tackle, it's looking at him, understanding, agreeing with them. Whether it's a coach kind of pulling you off to the side, hey, I think you should have done this, you know, eye contact. So being a good teammate is definitely number one. Staying positive as well. So things will go bad. You're not perfect. I'm not, Sophia's not, we make mistakes still to this day at our professional level. So things will go wrong, and making sure that you're positive, and that you just keep going forward. At Lexington, we have this, one of our main core values is always fall forward, don't fall backwards. So, you know, keep going. And then the last one would be, I think, focus on the intangibles like hard work, attitude, coachable, things like that really stand out sometimes a little bit more than talent. And then just kind of going back to that quote, right? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So those are the three. I could give a lot more, but I think those are my top three, and I'll stick with it.
No, that's good. I think we covered a lot of ground in this, and we can always hop back on and do another episode if we need it. But I think this was awesome. Do you guys have anything else to add before we close out?
Good luck.
Good luck. Have fun. Yeah, just play. Just play for fun. Okay, that's great, guys. This wraps up our episode 2, really focusing in on player evaluation, pressure, and competing in these time-limited competitive environments. But this was great. Thank you so much, Kaelon. Thank you so much, Sophia. If you guys enjoyed this episode, like, subscribe, drop a comment, ask another question below, and we'll get back to you. But until next time, have fun, enjoy yourselves, good luck, see you guys later.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.